Here in Blender 5.0 we are going to make this quite easily, and we can really get creative with these kind of things. Let's open a new project, and I'm going to delete everything. Let's first add a plane, which is going to be our background. Scale it up 10 times, and I'm going to apply scale. Now we want to go in the modifiers and look for a subdivision surface. Set it to simple, and let's give it a few subdivisions, and then a wireframe modifier. Increase the thickness a little bit until we can see it, and uncheck the replace original, and let's already set the material offset to 1, because we're going to use it right now. I want a little bit more of subdivisions, so I'm going to add another number there. Now in the materials, let's create new for our first material and set it to emission. We can keep it to white or give it our favorite color, and then let's have a second material on emission as well, and let's give it a different color. Let's go with the black. So if we switch to render view, this is what we have right now. Let's increase a little bit the wireframe so we see it better, and let's switch to cycles, which we're going to use as render engine for this purpose. Let's put this down a little bit, the max samples, or my computer is going to crash. Now the effect is pretty much based on reflections, so what we want is an UV sphere in this case. You can apply shade smooth and make sure it's above the plane, even though if you keep it on the middle it's still a cool effect, but we're going to see it in a little bit. Now in this sphere, let's create a material. Let's go down to transmission and let's go with full transmission right here. Let me check if, yeah, everything's working. And roughness down until we're satisfied and we like what we see. And we can experiment with this value here, the IOR, I believe, which as well, as you can see, kind of creates these interesting effects. Now, what I did earlier is grab this sphere and move it down in the x-axis for a little bit, so G, X, and with Control pressed, I want to move it something around here. Now I want to add a modifier, which is going to be an array modifier, and as you can see, it's going to be arrayed, of course. So let's have a few more, and we can play with the offset if we want to make it exactly like I did, which it was a little bit intersecting like so, and we can have more. Now let's already set up a camera so we can see better what we're working with, and press 0, and let's see if we can see things a little bit better. So with this setup here, let's keep a little bit changing this IOR value here until we're satisfied. I think I'm gonna keep it like so for now, and then we can go back to the plane. We can switch to shading and render mode, and on the background material here, the white one, let's try to add a Voronoi or some pattern inside. set the color ramp. And, let's see if we can get some interest going on here. I like the distance a lot, so let's keep that one. We can play with the detail and everything to get something we like. Now, with this setup, we can do a lot. Like if you want to loop it, you can just open a timeline, set up your keyframes. Let's say we want an animation of 121 frames, and on frame 0 we're going to apply location, and on frame 121 we want to move the x-axis until this sphere is again in the middle in order to achieve a loop. So I did it on the plane, we wanted it on the sphere. Let's apply location on frame 1 and 121. We can just move the spheres. So let's keep this value here, which was basically perfect. And if you play the animation, you're going to see this, which is quite trippy, if you ask me. Of course, if now we go on our background here, you can duplicate it if you want, and let's turn one off. We can play around with the plane and see different reflections. So for example, let's remove the wireframe here and subdivisions, and let's grab back our shader editor and let's try using a wave texture, for example. And still cool stuff happens. Now you can zoom in a little if you don't want to see the background below, something like that, and you can try and experiment a little bit with the texture and see what you get. Cool part of the wave texture is, of course, as we saw in this little tutorial here on how to animate a wave texture perfectly, we can shift the offset, make an animation here, and maybe we can have both of them running together, which makes a quite trippy effect. You can take this as far as you want. Just grab this simple concept and experiment with textures and really simple movement, and you're gonna end up with really nice renders and loops in just a few clicks. So I hope you like this tutorial. Like and subscribe to support the channel, and if you have any questions, please comment below. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.